Hello and welcome to today's video. So today I'd like to talk about why Plato didn't like democracy. Previously I talked about why Socrates didn't like democracy, but today I'd like to talk about why Plato hated democracy. So first of all, why what sparked his kind of hatred for democracy? Well, this is debated. There is no clear answer obviously because ancient sources are difficult to interpret, more difficult, and we can't really know what he was thinking completely. But some people say that it might have been connected to the execution of Socrates because Socrates was his mentor and he really valued his teachings. Obviously, he wrote down a lot of what he was teaching because Socrates himself didn't write anything down, but Plato did. And so Socrates was a really important person in his life. And I also believe that that might have definitely sparked some hatred for democracy or some suspicion because I don't know, I will make a video about this another time as well, but Socrates was executed for his philosophy overall and by democratic votes. People voted if he should be executed or not, and by a slight majority, only I think it was somewhere around 54, don't quote me on numbers, but it was very almost. Yeah, Socrates was executed because of the people voting for. So I think that was definitely one of the reasons why he was kind of starting to, or he was suspicious of democracy. Now, first of all, the first reason on why he hated it, specifically democracy, is this is similar to Socrates. He thought that common people lack the understanding to actually make political choices, rational political choices to say, because, well, there is just people have different amounts of education, and he believed that definitely education plays a huge role, and that he believed that the common people, the people who don't concern themselves so much with politics and philosophy, don't have the sufficient resources or knowledge on actually voting for the people who should rule them in a way, you know? And I think that makes sense because at the time also he saw that, I mean, this would lead me to my next point, but I still want to leave it a bit of that. Well, he saw that, for example, with the execution of Socrates, people weren't necessarily thinking rationally. They weren't really, well, taught. I guess not all people were taught how to think critically, and I believe that he wanted to make voting a thing that's not just given to anybody, but people who actually have the understanding of how a society works and philosophy. Because this leads me to my second point. He believes that democracy leads to demagogy, and I'm going to explain what that is now. Basically, a demagogue system is kind of a political person or party who seeks support to rise to power by appealing to common people, by appealing to their prejudices, by appealing to their wants and needs, but they don't actually care. They just want, well, strictly speaking, it's a bit more complicated than this, but I'm trying to keep it short here. Basically, they want to persuade, they want to appeal to the people so that they vote for that person, but then they won't necessarily do all these things that they promised. Because why? They don't care. They just want the power, right? And the benefits that come with having that power. And they don't actually care about the needs and wants of the people, or they are not actually in the power to execute them. They just say they are, but they can't actually do the things that they promise to people. And yeah, Plato believed that a democracy can easily lead to this happening because people just have to believe what the person on the stage is saying. They just believe it. And this is why rhetoric was a very important propaganda tool, which, I mean, it still is today. Let's be real. Propaganda and rhetoric it goes hand in hand. Like, people listen to what the person's saying And if they like it, obviously they are more willing to vote for that person. Like, that's just how it works, also psychologically. But he just believed that it's a lot easier to persuade or to, yeah, that wrong leaders or wrong, well, people who don't think rationally and don't actually care about society get voted, because common people don't have the understanding to actually think through that demagogue view, you know what I mean? That's kind of that. Now, the third point, summing up, is basically he believed that democracy would lead to too much freedom. And this, I think this ties a bit with existentialism, and I will talk about existentialism at some point. Existentialism says, there's a famous quote by, I think it was Kierkegaard or Sartre, I don't remember, okay, sorry, but the quote is basically, we are condemned to be free. And I believe that this ties in with Plato's view on democracy, because he believed that too much freedom means that the masses or the people, the society, is not guided by what's actually good, but everybody can decide for themselves what's good for them. But there's this lack of like a society or like societal values that are good, simply because everybody has the freedom. Theoretically, right? We all know that practically we don't actually have all that freedom, but let's just say theoretically, philosophically, right? Because I think this definitely is like existentialism, which I will talk about. I'll make a video about this as well. But yeah, like, I think these are all the three main points kind of summarized on why he didn't necessarily like democracy. And now I want to address what his ideal world would be, or his ideal society, his ideal rule. Well, he believed that philosophers are superior, in a way, to non-philosophers or common people, because they have the ability to think critically and rationally, for the most part, about questions on life and society and things like that, and politics, right? So he wanted, or for his, the ideal scenario would be that there would be an kind of aristocracy in a way, which is led by philosophers, or like king philosophers in a way. And I mean, we can debate on this, whether this would be good or not, but overall, I must say he definitely has a few points right there, because he didn't necessarily want to rob the people of their freedom. I think that's how I interpret it. I think he wanted more that, I think he just simply believed that a democracy can't work for the best if people get persuaded by leaders who don't want what's best. I think that is a good way to summarize it. And I definitely think that that part is true, even today. While we have to say that the democracy in ancient Athens was a bit different from today, still, I think some of these things apply today. And yeah, we can definitely think through this. Alright, so that's basically the main point summarized, what I wanted to talk about. Now, I still want to put a disclaimer. I look absolutely fucked up, I know. The reason why is because I have an allergy, so my eyes just absolutely look insane, I know. But I don't really have anything to do against it. I can't really do anything about it, so that's that. Anyway, this is the video for today. I would like to say that the next video I'll probably, I have a few ideas, so I might stick still with ancient Greece and ancient philosophy. But yeah, I definitely want to also talk about existentialism, as I already mentioned a few times in this video, so might as well do that. We'll see. Anyway, bye bye.